My name's Jesse. I work for New England Brewing Company. I'm the sales rep.
How you doing? I'm Brian from Northeast Beverage. I'm the territory sales rep for the area.
How's it going? I'm Taylor, and I'm the general manager of Worldwide Wine and Spirits in Southington.
I'm Jamal. I'm the director of sales and marketing at New England Brewing.
Today we're going to be making braised beef short ribs, and the special secret ingredient is going to be our own New England Brewing Company Imperial Stout Trooper. We're going to braise it in the Imperial Stout Trooper with a little beef broth, and it's going to tenderize it and be delicious. All right, so what we're doing is adding a little bit of vegetable oil to the pan, and we're going to season our short ribs on all sides. Jamal's going to brown them in this pan, which is actually going to be the same vessel that we're going to cook it in for the whole entirety of the meal. While Jamal's seasoning and searing off the meat, we're going to go ahead and start getting our vegetables ready for after the meat being seared. So Taylor is peeling some carrots. We're also going to dice up the carrots, celery, leeks, and onion. So that'll be braised in with the beer, the broth, and also the short ribs. In the meantime, Brian over here is working on our garnish. We're gonna have so much flavor from all the ingredients that are braised in there, and at the end we're gonna have some nice fresh chopped parsley to go on top, and that'll liven up the dish as well as give it a nice green color to really wow the judges.
So I'm gonna get a nice, generous amount of salt and pepper on here. It's gonna get seared off. Give it a nice little crust. That looks pretty good.
Carrots, once they're peeled, we're going to be chopping them.
So we're gonna braise these short ribs. We wanna get the oil nice and hot. That nice sizzle on there. We're gonna give it a couple of minutes on each side, let it get nice and crisped up, and then we're gonna rotate. We wanna get all sides of this bad boy. So we want to just make sure we get all sides nice and seared up, and so it gets like a nice crust almost on each side before we kind of change it over.
Yeah, so leeks are one of those vegetables that can have a lot of dirt in them if they're not cleaned properly. So it's really important to make sure that you rinse out all the dirt, and that's what Taylor's doing right now. You just cut them in half, and then they have layers that you want to make sure that in between those layers you really rinse thoroughly. And then you'll have a nice clean color with no dirt inside of it. And remember, all of these ingredients that are going to be going in with the braise are not going to be making it on to the final plate. So knife cuts are not the most important, nobody needs to see how accurate your knife cuts are while you're cooking this. It's just going to be the taste that we're looking for. So
Once we cut up all the vegetables, we throw them into a pot, just put them together, and just wait until we're finished searing.
all right, so it's a really important thing to get these short ribs, nice and caramelized. It really adds a lot of flavor. You're getting those sugars browned, and it's gonna really help create what they call a fond on the bottom of the pan, which is like when you see a little bit of that food getting stuck on the bottom of the pan, and that's where the flavor is.
I'm the general manager of Worldwide. Myself and the owner, Mark, we just really understand how much of an impact there is by Bread for Life. Just the positive impacts with food programs to community giving, and there's so much need for it. The message of So No One Goes Hungry is fantastic. It's something that we live by. So at the store we've done a few charity tastings, but what we recently did was we brought the New England Brewing Company El Camino. We drove it into the store and we filled it up with non-perishable food items for the food pantry. Bread for Life to use in their kitchen right here, and then also to give out to individuals. And the other thing we did was anyone who shared it on social media and said #HagsForHunger, we gave a $3 donation back to Bread for Life. And we had over 700 shares, so we hit the maximum of $1,500 that we're giving them a check in about 2 weeks. The impact that Bread for Life makes every single day to the community is just something that we cherish. And we just had to team up with New England Brewing Company because they are so charity-minded. And it was just the perfect collaboration. So we just finished that up about a week ago.
Yeah, and it was an amazing success on pretty much every level too. It you know, exceeded all of our expectations, and it felt really good in the process of doing it. It's funny when you enjoy your job. So we went ahead and took the ribs out of the pan. Jamal's sauteing all the vegetables in the pan with a little bit of the oil that was left over. We went ahead and drained most of the oil out, but we wanted to keep some in there to have a little bit of the fat in there to saute those vegetables. And then we'll saute those until they almost turn translucent, and the onions, of course, will turn translucent. Now that we've got the vegetables sauteed down a little bit, it's time to add our flour. And the flour is gonna act as a thickening agent for the sauce while the liquid is braising. Tablespoon is what this recipe calls for. I'll be honest, when I cook with flour, I kind of go by feel a little bit, and it really has a lot to do with how much liquid you have in the pan in this recipe. So with the amount of liquid that we have in the pan, we're gonna sprinkle in the flour, try and get it so that it's almost like a wet sand consistency around the vegetables, and continue to saute that for another few minutes. All right, so this is the secret ingredient, Imperial Stout Trooper. And the recipe calls for 16 ounces, which would be a can and a half. So we've got same beer. This is the 2020 version, which I'm sure is recognizable to a lot of people. So this is actually one of our oldest beers, original recipe from the owner of the brewery, Rob Leonard. And it's only brewed seasonally during the cold winter months. We've steadily grown as a business, and which has allowed us to brew more than one batch, but this was something that would only come around during the holidays, and it would be one time a year. So now that we've gotten to the point where we're able to brew it a couple of different times of the year, we're also making different versions of it. So now we do not just the regular Imperial Stout Trooper, but we're aging it in different bourbon barrels, brandy barrels, blending those barrels together, and it's really exciting. And I think that that's going to be a lot more of the future of this beer, where we'll be able to play around with different versions and variations of it as well. So added the beef broth in there as well. We're going to add the 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. That can get stirred up in there. 2 tablespoons of the brown sugar. Perfect. And then we're gonna add 2 bay leaves. I always prefer to use fresh herbs. And we're gonna throw the herbs in there, 4 sprigs of thyme, 2 bay leaves. You know, that's definitely a preference thing as well. And then at this point, we can go ahead and add our short ribs back into the liquid. You really want to make sure that your liquid is, you know, covering over these ribs. So after we got it all in there, it looks like we're right at a simmer almost. We're gonna go ahead and cover this with tin foil, throw it in a 300-degree oven for about 3 hours. And in that 3-hour period, it's gonna get tender, so we can check it with a fork. The bones will start falling off of the short ribs, and the sauce will be concentrated. It's gonna be delicious. So 3 hours later, we're gonna pop out the short ribs. So to serve these short ribs, what we went ahead and did was just make some mashed potatoes. Butter, cream, I put a little sour cream in mine with some salt. Dollop those right down on the middle of the plate. Our short ribs are gonna go, I'd like to serve 2. I mean, based on the size of the ribs. This one's actually a really nice size right there, so it probably could get away with 1, but why not have 2? What we do after we take the short ribs out of the oven is that we're going to strain that liquid so that it doesn't have all of the vegetables, all of the herbs. Pretty much, you know, you can strain it a few times. If you go to a fancy restaurant, they're gonna strain it 6 or 7 times. there you have your braised short ribs served with mashed potatoes.